Starting you guys off with the Friedrich Nietzsche quote. It is more comfortable for our eye to react to a particular object by producing again an image it has often produced before, than by retaining what is new and different in an impression. The latter requires more strength and more morality. What does that mean? I'll repeat it again. It is more comfortable for our eye to react to a particular object by producing again an image it has often produced before, than by retaining what is new and different in an impression. The latter requires more strength and morality. My interpretation of this is that basically what is new for us we find very hard to learn and think about. So whatever previous perceptions or something that we've had on a topic, or just whether it is learning something new, our brain will try to make up or put together things that we are familiar with something that we've learned that is new in order to learn it, which can actually distort the new thing that we are learning because our brain's doing different things. Then by retaining what is new and different in an impression, the latter requires more strength and morality. So learning something actually new and not connecting it with something that we have previously thought of or a previous perception that we have had is actually difficult, and it requires strength and you to be more convicted to your purpose, values, or something like that, or virtues, which I think is very interesting. So welcome to the ABoutWellbeing podcast episode, I think it's 38, this one. My God, we're getting through it. 38 to 39, one of those. Bone broth. Today I'm going to be talking about bone broth, and there's going to be a whole bunch of other health stuff in here, tips and tricks and all the rest of it, because to dive deep into bone broth, I have to talk about the guts and a few other things as well. So we will get into that, which is going to be really cool. So firstly, if you guys don't know what bone broth is, it is bones and bone marrow that has been boiled down over a long period of time, and it is best come out in a goo, and you can get it in a jar. And there's stuff that I like to have. You can actually get a discount for it, Corey 12, or there's a link in this podcast. There's a link on my website. You just scroll down a little bit and you can get Corey 12 discount, especially if you're in Australia, to Best of the Bone broth, who I believe, in my personal opinion, is the best because they have Australian cows. They use a 48-hour or 72-hour very slow old school method for boiling down all these bones and bone marrow, and it comes from grass-fed happy cows, and they don't high pressure any of the bone broth, and they don't use ridiculous heats, so it doesn't damage any of the good stuff in the bone broth. That's why it is so elite. And essentially, if you think ancestrally, thousands of years ago, when we used to, if we hunt down and kept an animal, we'd eat the whole thing. We'd have bone broths all the time. If you ever had a chicken soup or a ham and peas soup or some sort of fur or faux, or a laksa, not a laksa, but some sort of other beef stew, faux, whatever, there's always bones been put in there. And you think, oh, bone broth, ew. If you do think that, by the way, how good's my Hero Academia shirt? How good? But yeah, if you think bone broths is like gross, chances are you've already had it multiple times, just in a different form. And basically what they're doing here is just making bone broth they're doing it in a way where it's just very concentrated and it's purely bones and bone marrow. So ancestrally, we'd make all the soups around it and we'd eat it. So we were getting all the benefits from the bones and bone marrow, which is very high in things like glycine and collagen and all these different things. Instead of us just eating meat all the time, we'd eat the whole damn animal. Hence why it's got so many nutrients and all these different parts. And why we're missing a whole bunch of nutrients now is because we miss out on all of these different things, because it's a lot easier to farm and factory just beef and T-bones and you not eat the bone and blah, 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 blah. Do all of that instead and you miss out all of these other ingredients, right? Super interesting. So, adding bone broth into your diet, essentially, I think, is one of nature's biggest and best multivitamins. And because it becomes in a fat and the bones boiled down into, it's literally like a fat, it's very high in fat, and it is a fat, and because all of the nutrients are with the fat, what happens is it's basically fat soluble. So when you're eating it and digesting it, it actually gets traveled around your body and absorbed really easy, and actually gets into your brain. So it crosses it's a lot easier for it to go past the blood-brain barrier and get into your brain because it's high in fat content. Your body can use all the nutrients and pump it around your body, because it's got all this good stuff in there. So, that's essentially what bone broth is. And we have access to the best bone broth, I would say, in the world. Especially, you don't want to I'd say stay away from the powder stuff. It's fine, and it's good. but it's not as good as the stuff that's the goo. So if you are going to get something, get the goo stuff, because my God, so good. So goo. So here's just a quick, what I'm basically going to go through today. The best bone broth comes in a goo type liquid. Bone broth is essential as it is packed with amazing amount of nutrients and proteins combined with fats, so the absorption is better. I also forgot to say, guys, I have an article on this on my website, CoreyBoutwell.com. It is called Bone Broth. So I have an article on there called Bone Broth talking about all the benefits of it. Bone broth is full of easily digestible collagen that prevents leaky gut. So we'll talk about leaky gut today. Bone broth is full of glycine, and glycine is a super amino acid, one of the most readily available and biodigestible aminos that are out there. And yeah, like I say, Best of the Bone is probably, my personal opinion, is the best on the market at the moment, for sure. Like some of the other brands either import their bones or they use these different methods and say they got all the good stuff in there, which as they would. And yes, the bone broth is a decent quality, but it's just not as good as Best of the Bone, which I'm all about. I'm all about that. So bone broth is essentially made from bones and bone marrow and connective tissue that has been boiled down over a long period of time, melted into a delicious liquid, which is essentially gold for the body. It's so good. It's so good. Now, if you think gross, just try some. Try some, get some, do something, because I significantly noticed when I have bone broth on a regular basis, which I essentially pretty much have it almost every single day, I always feel better. And when I don't take it, I know that I need it, because it is essentially like nature's multivitamin is how I like to look at it. There's just so much other good stuff in there. Like, it's so mineral dense, so it's hydrating. It's very hydrating for your fascia and your muscles and your brain and your body, and it gets absorbed really well. So good. So there's a few types of forms. You've got the powder, the goo, and then a soup, like pho. Powder form just comes in a powder, the packets, and then the goo type liquid. Please buy the goo type stuff. It is definitely the best. How to actually take it. So you put a serving into a cup or drink it like a tea, although it does taste a bit more like a soup. You can put it into soups. Simply add it on top of your food, either in a sauce or like as a dressing. It pairs really well with meat and where salt is actually needed. Like, my dad just puts it on everything. Puts it on his salad. Like, what are you doing, man? Putting bone broth on your salad? He's like, I love it. You get the Italian herbs flavour? So good. Like, Jesus. I like to make it into a tea and put a whole bunch of healing mushrooms and turmeric, and I have this 39-day fermented miso paste that I like to put in there because that tastes really good and has all the different probiotics and all these good things. So whatever you like to mix with fats that really doesn't taste good, you can put it into a bone broth and it's going to taste awesome. So that's one thing as well that's like to get out of your brain if you're thinking, oh, it might taste bad. It tastes amazing. There are a few types of bone broth: fish, chicken, pork, beef. Grass-fed is where the good stuff's at. If you guys haven't listened to any of my stuff beforehand, if you didn't know, when a cow eats when it doesn't eat grass and it's eating grains and wheat or whatever the rest of it is, their stomach gets infected, and their stomachs, cows are like 5 stomachs or something, it all gets infected, and then their meat deteriorates, their dairy deteriorates. You do not want to be having grain-fed cows. Really bad. Their body gets inflamed, and the quality is nowhere near as good as the grass-fed stuff, and basically you're eating inflammation from the cows. Not a good. Yes, so why is bone broth good for you? Well, here's the list of reasons. What is actually in bone broth? It's 40% collagen, it's high in protein, it's got cartilage, so CAGs, high in glycine, high in proline, abundant amino acids, which are very good for us and for our muscle connective tissue and helping getting to sleep, and also counters. Glycine and proline also help counteract having just normal, really high protein intake anyway. They're like a little bit different, so they're really good because they're collagen based. Pretty sure. I know glycine is, unsure about proline. I'm assuming proline is. I know, but proline, though, from the stuff that I've researched, is just elite. All I know is when I see the word proline, I think, yes! Glutamine, gelatin, probiotics is higher in omega-3s. It's better omega-6 omega-3 ratio. There's like stem cells in there that have been found, high in iron, high in vitamin A and K, high in selenium, high in zinc, higher in manganese, high in CLA, which is one of the best forms of omega-6. People take that for brain performance and help themselves burn some fat. And glucosamine, really high in glucosamine, which is really healthy for your joints. So yeah, elite. How good is that? Do I want some of that? Absolutely, get it in my diet. So bone broth benefits. So heals leaky gut and irritable bowel syndrome. What? Yes, and the right protocol, it's definitely going to help with that. It definitely helps heal the gut. Increases absorption, supports joint and bone health, increases bone density, increases muscle mass. Very high anti-inflammatory, improves immune system, increases energy, increases overall health. Extremely good for your skin and your fascia. Your fascia is the connective tissue within your muscle that holds everything together. It's sort of like the sock that your muscle sits in, and it goes all in between your muscles, and that's where all the electrical signals come through and either tell your muscles to grow or tell your muscles to heal. It converts testosterone, estrogen, all this real good stuff. Fascia are the signals to make your muscles like contract. They got all the signaling in there. Detoxifies your liver, good for wound healing and the production of plasma. There's a large amount of benefits listed, here for what basically bone broth does, but it's really good for healing IBS and gut health. Bone broth is also full of bone marrow, it supports the immune system by carrying oxygen cells in the body. Minerals such as calcium and phosphorus, which are essential for maintaining healthy bones and generating energy. The body uses collagen and other connective tissues in the broth to rebuild damaged tissues like intestinal lining. Oh man, so good. So one person who used to use bone broth a lot was Kobe Bryant, who's a big supporter. So need I say more? I will anyway. So collagen is very interesting. So what is collagen? Ingesting bone broth feeds the body with collagen. Collagen is the building block of cells to bones, ligaments, cartilage, and your brain. What? I forgot about that. One article states that gelatin, a form of collagen used in food, is used to help digestion because the liquid gets absorbed into the body quickly and without much effort. Stay with me, guys, and I'm quoting some stuff, but stay with me. Keep the listening going. This is good stuff. This makes bone broth incredibly valuable for people that struggle with food sensitivities and gastrointestinal disorders. Bone broth and gelatin is usually very safe and tolerable for the body. Now, if you guys have been listening to my podcast and you've been following like the journey with everything, by now you guys should be doing you should be meditating at least once a day for 10 minutes. You should be journal writing out some of your goals. You should be doing Celtic salt, lemon and water every single morning. You should be staying really hydrated. You should be doing at least one 24-hour fast a week. You should be exercising and walking very regularly. You should be making better decisions with food choices and including like a lot more vegetables and starting to buy more organic things and including a lot more herbs and buying, grass-fed this, grass-fed that, whatever the rest of it is. Adding bone broth into your diet as well, including all of those things, is just going to supercharge all of these results. I think personally. This makes bone broth incredibly valuable for people who, I just said that, bone broth and gelatin is usually very safe and tolerable for the body. How good. So, essentially, bone broth is easily digestible, full of amazing nutrients, fats and proteins, and is extremely healing for your gut, skin, brain, body, and eye health. How good. Bone broth is good for you because of a variety and combinations of substances that is in it. I find I usually buy supplements and vitamins in their singular forms as I like to get the benefit from the product, but bone broth has a bit of everything in there and it gets its super power from this. So in the book Genius Foods, Max Lugavere, he talks about how fats are the transporter of nutrients and hormones to the brain. And bone broth is basically one of the most perfect substances for this because it is extremely valuable to the brain. It's a high, real good, important source of fat. And the substances that it includes is the collagen, the glycine, the minerals, the vitamins, the omega-3s, and the 6s like the CLA, and a whole bunch of probiotics. It's just it's a no-brainer to get a good brainer. What? That was like the worst joke ever. Anyway, stay with me, guys. As these goodies are combined and ingested with good fats in the broth, your body can use them and transport them to the brain. This means your brain is using and absorbing these nutrients, increasing your brain's ability to send signals around the body efficiently. This results in healing and energy your body requires to perform well at anything. Oh man, it's just so good. So I like to mix. If you looked at any of the research for lion's mane mushroom, reishi mushroom, ashwagandha, any of those mushrooms, I like to have an absolute boatload of those with bone broth. And what's really handy is the best of the bone broth. Have a healing mushroom which has like lion's mane, shiitake, reishi. I think there's a few others in there that is actually really good, and it tastes amazing. The Italian herbs flavor tastes amazing. Turmeric, turmeric and ginger taste great. And the lemon curry one are insane. They also have a probiotic one too. So yes, I like to mix a whole bunch. I like mixed turmeric powder, reishi or lion's mane, and the bone broth together, and it's just incredible. So, gets to your brain, heals all the stuff. Now, what is basically leaky gut, and how does the broth actually help with this? So, how leaky gut works is basically the inside of our gut walls have all these type of like finger type things, right? That go through all of our gut, and what happens is I'm pretty sure it's called like a gut flora, right? And you can tell where it's a healthy gut. If we eat healthy things, all those fingers basically stick together, and then they have all these little modules on top. It's like fingers on top of fingers, right? And basically food comes in, and then these fingers start digesting stuff with all the liquid. They start moving it in, they absorb it into the fingers, they absorb food into the fingers, and then they absorbs into the stomach wall very healthily. And then once it's been all digested by the fingers, it gets into our bloodstream. Everything we eat gets into our bloodstream. Now what happens is bad stuff, anything that's not good for us, inflammatories, processed foods, bad sugars, anything that's not good for our guts basically comes in and hits the fingers, and the fingers go, that's disgusting, and they either separate or die. And then what happens is there's a hole from your stomach that what happens is things don't get absorbed by the fingers into the bloodstream. They just go straight into the bloodstream. So allergens, pathogens, which is just like immune system stuff, so anything that's bad for you that can get you sick, can basically get absorbed from your gut and go straight into your bloodstream and make you feel like shit. Which is like a good example would just be like alcohol. Destroys the inside of your guts, gets absorbed really quickly, gets into your bloodstream, gets into your brain, makes you feel pissed. So that's just like a really good example. We want like a bulletproof gut so that we can prevent all these sick things and free radicals and things that are going to hurt us and are not good for our immune system and not good for our brain, because we get these things in our brain and it ruins brain health, blah, 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 blah. Stay with me, remember guys? A lot of facts. Stay with me. Listen in. This is really important facts here for your guts. Everyone should know this, right? So, yes, if we're not looking after our gut, we get these damages, things get into our bloodstream a lot more quickly and get pumped around our body. Not good, right? Yes, our immune system is killer in it, it's like our last line of defense, essentially. So sometimes you have a bad gut if you eat something and your body's not good with it, and immediately your blood sugar spikes because your body's having an inflammation response and your immune system's trying to fight it off. Now, it's a lot less likely for your immune system to try and fight stuff off if you have a healthy gut and your gut can deal with all the things that are coming in and it's not getting straight to the bloodstream. Whoa. So that's essentially what happens. So making good food choices is extremely important. Now, what happens is what bone broth does is it supports leaky gut, as it's so easily digestible and is full of collagen, and the collagen reduces the rate at which the walls become susceptible to the things that are trying to that could potentially damage it. It does this by preventing inflammation triggers. Stay with me guys, listen into this one, keep listening. So inflammation triggers, it prevents the inflammation triggers as it sort of lines the gut. It lines the gut wall so that like these things can't get in, inflammation won't get really high, and then it allows the gut to actually heal, because these inflammation triggers basically penetrate the gut wall, which create the holes in there, which allows bad things to get into the blood. And what happens is the bone broth lines this, helps prevent the inflammation triggers, and then also helps strengthen the guts and the cells all around them. So putting it in simpler terms, it reduces inflammation around the stomach walls and makes the walls stronger, right? Which is what we want. So absolute no-brainer again. Why we want some of this bone broth? Because it's the best. Therefore, bone broth has its strongest effects when the gut is already strong and healthy. It does this, if this doesn't convince you to get on the broth, then my gosh, nothing will. And if you are listening to this and you're like, okay, I want to get some of that broth, pause this video right now, go to CoreyBoutwell.com, scroll down, click on the bone broth, buy yourself some. Or just go down to the comments in the section in this podcast, because I'll link the discount code here, and you can buy yourself some broth. If you really want to get this and you want to try it and see how it goes, pause the video right now and buy yourself one and see how you go. You get that 12% off. How good. You know, what's wrong with trying something? It may make you feel amazing, you may not. One experience you can get from it though, from taking broth, is because it has the gut effects and it's good at healing your gut, and you know, one of the symptoms you can get though is like you can get the runs for like a week or two, and that is not many people experience this, like at all, not many people. But basically what that means is, wow, your guts isn't that healthy, it's starting to heal your guts, clear some stuff out, and hello runs, or your body's not used to digesting fats as much as it is the bone broth. And then after a week or two, you feel real fine, you feel a lot better, and your digestion is a lot better as well, and your stomach walls are stronger. So that can be sometimes a little experience. So if you do experience that, stick with it for a couple of weeks and see how you go. I strongly recommend that. This would be the best. I've never had any problems, and I think like 9 out of 10 people that do take bone broth do not experience that, but that can be a symptom for some if you don't have a very good like gut health or gut digestion. I'm pretty sure for me and my experience with this, that is a symptom of it. So one thing I like to mention is bodybuilders are body healers. So if you're a bodybuilder, a lifter, a fitness athlete, and you're like getting after it, you go to the gym regularly, one term I love to say is bodybuilders are body healers. They're the best ones. You know, you go to the gym, you damage yourself into the gym, and it's the ones that heal their body the best are the ones that become the best bodybuilders, because you spend 1 hour a day in the gym and you spend the other 23 healing. Right? Bone broth increases muscle size and performance. Bone broth is a natural food that is more nutrient dense than most vitamins or supplements you can buy. And it is because it comes from, this is so important, this is such a nugget right here, because bone broth comes from a natural some sort of bio word source, whatever it is, and it's not synthetic like most vitamins and minerals which are made to sell to us to make us feel better. Because it comes from a natural organic source, our body loves it. Our body really, really likes that, and it can absorb it so much better. That's why I like to say bone broth is pretty much a super supplement. It helped me through my entire competition prep, and I do not give it enough credit for the health, energy, and body that I produced during that time, for sure. Like, just felt so good the whole time. Bone broth was one of the main things for that. Glycine, right? So I'm getting to glycine now. Is heavily abundant in bone broth. Glycine is the most effective digestible amino acid that our body uses to create hemoglobin. Hemoglobin carries oxygen to your blood, to your muscle tissues and organs, and transports carbon dioxide back to your lungs, which you then breathe out. Stay with me, guys. If you just need to go back 15 seconds to listen to that one, absolutely. I'll repeat it for you now just a little bit though. Hemoglobin carries oxygen in your blood to your muscles, tissues and organs, and transports carbon dioxide back to your lungs, which you then breathe out. Super important, because we don't want carbon dioxide flying around our bodies. So decreased hemoglobin levels means less oxygen supply to your muscles when you're performing. Good hemoglobin levels means bigger pumps and more energy in your working muscles. Glycine stimulates and supports human growth hormone. It is the main protein in collagen, and it helps prevent muscle deterioration and improves muscle recovery. Glycine is elite. A quick Google of it, you can just Google glycine, blow your damn mind. So if you want to have a suss out, pause, have a look at glycine right now and just go, what? It's all the things Corey said, it's great. And because it's the most abundant and it's not synthetic in bone broth, we digest it, amazing. If this hasn't convinced you to give it a go, I say give that. And remember, goose stuff, not the powder. Best of the bone broth I believe is the best in South Australia. Or not South Australia, in Australia. It's made up Northern Queensland. I think that's pretty much most of the stuff. I've got the article. There's like 1,000 references on there. Not really. There's like probably 20, but still. So best of the bone. Probably the best that I have found. So at the moment, because they use that old school method, and it's I prefer to have that over the powders because of all the fat solubles and all the good stuff that is in there. They are extremely dedicated to making sure that the bones and the marrow and the cows are extremely happy that they're all grass-fed and that it's boiled over a very slow process. So none of the fats or anything are damaged in there, which is awesome. So yeah, guys, I hope you learned something in this podcast. I hope you learned something about like leaky gut and how that works, because every food decision, every single thing that we eat gets absorbed into our bloodstream and transported through our entire body. So when they say you are what you eat, it's like legit. The only thing that's left over is the waste stuff, which is what we end up pulling out at the bottom. But we essentially absorb everything good or bad, and gets into our body. So we want to make sure that we're making some of the best decisions that we can. Now, the body's extremely adaptable, hence why we build massive tolerances to things, and our immune system ends up getting really handy at fighting shitty stuff off. So a lot of the time, you don't even know if you're putting good or bad things into your body, and then it depends on what DNA type that you have and how your body handles different types of things as well, and how it can, like, how good it is at removing toxins, or what type of fats sensitivity, salt sensitivity, carb sensitivities that we have. So all these different things affect our gut health. And so I strongly recommend, if you do experience some stuff with your gut, is to start trying some fasting. If you guys don't already know, I have a how to do your first 24-hour fast ebook. I'll link that in here. You can check that out. Then I also have a fasting program which goes through and shows you how to do, like, educational videos, how to do your first 24-hour fast, all the benefits and science for all of that, and how to actually do it and make sure that you're doing it and sticking to it, and then how to also build that up over time in order to start learning how to do a 36, 48, 3-day fast. And you think, why the hell would I want to do that? So that your gut can have time, instead of digesting all of that food, right? All of the food that's getting into your stomach and ruining those fingers and getting into your bloodstream, is giving your stomach a break so that it can heal those walls, that it can heal those fingers, make them nice and strong, so that our guts are more resilient to all the stuff that we're eating, and we're better at digesting and absorbing foods, and we don't have to have such a massive inflammation response and rely on our immune system to crush it, when our guts should be doing the first line and helping us. Well, it's actually our saliva first, but our guts, giving our guts the best chances possible, and not helping and not also damaging our guts, so that we're less likely to get sick or have immune system stuff in our body getting into like a bad state. So fasting and bone broth mixed together, extremely important. So you can check those out. I'll link down below. I actually really highly recommend the fasting course. I think it's really good, and you can mix fasting with bone broth in order to get the best results. So one thing from you guys, if I was going to recommend something for you today, is to try a 24-hour fast. Either get that ebook or that program, give it a crack, and just buy one jar of bone broth and see how you go. You obviously get the 12% off if you go to my website. Click on the link below. If you're just sold and you're keen and you've tried bone broth before, just buy heaps. I buy like 3 or 4 at a time. My dad buys like 4 to 6. All my friends, we just buy it and live on it all the time. It's quite great going to a different friend's house and seeing bone broth in the fridge all the time, and us all just like making the teas and drinking them and just feeling fantastic, and knowing that our guts and our digestion is all being looked after and we got it good. I'm going to repeat this Friedrich Nietzsche quote one more time and leave you. So, it is more comfortable for our eye to react to a particular object by producing again an image it has often produced before, than by retaining what is new and different in an impression. The latter requires more strength and more morality. So, if you guys are struggling and you're thinking about all these different things right now, I challenge you to change your perception and come at this and learn something new here and give something a try. Big love, guys. See you in the next one.